Christian parenting.
Welcome to the Christian Parenting Podcast. I'm your host, Steph Thurling. I'm the Executive Director of Christian Parenting, a mom of 3, and I am so glad that you're here. This is a place where you can bring your real self, no matter what that looks like today, and be given the space, resources, and encouragement you need to set aside perfection and grow into the perfectly imperfect parent God made you to be. Hey everyone, welcome to the Christian Parenting Podcast. Today I am talking with Ashlee Gadd. So Ashlee is founder of Coffee and Crumbs. She's a writer and a photographer, a wife, and a mom of 3. Her book, Create Anyway, The Joy of Pursuing Creativity in the Margins of Motherhood, is releasing really soon. And in this book, Ashlee encourages moms to pursue creativity in the middle of motherhood. During our time together, Ashlee shares why creativity is important and worth the effort, how collaboration fosters creativity, and how God himself is the ultimate creator. If you have ever felt like you wanted to be doing something creative or different, but don't know how to make space for it, you do not want to miss this interview. Hey, Ashlee, I am super excited to have you here today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so you have a new book coming out soon called Create Anyway, The Joy of Pursuing Creativity in the Margins of Motherhood. And I read it, and it is just such a refreshing and relatable book. And I cannot wait for everyone to hear more about it. But before we get into that, I want to talk about your family.
Sure.
So can you tell us about your family, like who they are, and just a word or phrase that describes you guys?
Yeah. A word or phrase that describes my whole family or like each
your
person?
Whole family.
Oh, man. That is
I know, it's a hard question.
I feel a lot of pressure to be a real wordsmith here. Let's see. So I've been married for 15 years to my husband, Brett. And then we have 3 kiddos. Everett is 10. Carson is 8. And Presley is almost 4. She is a very mature 3-year-old, but her birthday's coming up in a couple of weeks. So she's almost 4. And gosh, if I had to put just one word to my family, this feels like a really cheat answer, but I think I would genuinely say creative.
I don't think that's a cheat answer. I think that's the perfect answer for you.
Okay. It's the first one that's coming off the top of my head. So we'll just roll with that.
No, I love that. That's perfect. So it leads us into your interview, which is what we're here for. So
perfect.
I love that answer. And then I'm also asking people, what is one thing that you want every parent to know?
One thing you want every parent to know. You're just coming in with these really good questions right off the bat.
I know they're challenging, but they make everyone think a little, and I like it. We learn a lot about you.
I think I want every parent to know that the work you are doing every day truly matters.
I love
Simple,
that.
but true, I think.
Simple, but true. It does matter. And we easily overlook that. And we often feel insignificant, especially as moms.
Yeah.
Which is really the heart behind your book. Like your book is all about creating while being a mom. But I want to say to anyone who's listening and you're thinking like, oh, I'm not a creative person. Like I don't write or paint or do photography or whatever it is. It's so much more than that. Like it's really giving permission to pursue passions and to do something meaningful other than parent. And yes, creativity is definitely a part of it, but there's so much more goodness in the words of this book. Like it's just really good stuff. Yeah. So what inspired you to write a book on motherhood and creativity?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you've heard the saying that you should write the book that you yourself want to read. And I think that's very true of this book. This really is the book that I wish I would have had as a new mom, just kind of thrown into the world of motherhood and sort of instantly feeling that tension bubble up between motherhood and my creative endeavors. This is sort of the guidebook or the encouragement that I wish I had back then.
Yeah, and it really does that well. Like you tell a lot of stories, you make it very relatable, so people can definitely see themselves in the book. I see myself in your book, so I'm a writer too.
Okay.
And every word spoke to me because, I wrote my book on my phone in my notes app and using voice memos and while my kids watch TV and in my extra childcare time at the gym, like every little crack that I could find is when I was writing or even doing other creative things. Like I like to paint. And so when I do that, I mean, just when I can, I do it, and it's not great, but I try. And sometimes, especially while writing, sometimes I do feel guilty that, my kids watch one more show than I meant for them to, or that I'm spending my time writing instead of folding the mountain of laundry that needs to be done. So let's talk about that for a little bit. Like, I know so many people want to be pursuing passions and being creative, but there's this guilt associated with that. Like, how do moms stop feeling guilty? And then how do we handle all of those feelings and emotions?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And it's something I still wrestle with from time to time, and I think that so often we file creativity away as something that's really selfish, especially if it's not connected to income or something, that's producing like an outward, like an outward reward in our life. It's really easy to minimize the benefits of that. And so something I'm just really passionate about is reframing creativity as not being a selfish act. When we take the time to embrace our God-given creativity, that is part of being a whole person, and really stepping into the person that God uniquely created us to be. And I just love to reframe creativity as something that's really essential, to our own personal flourishing. And I think that if we can, especially as moms, kind of reframe it in that way of this is something that is really adding to my life experience. It's making me a happier, healthier, more joy-filled, more grateful, more flourishing person that spills out into our mothering, So I just want to help moms like reframe that. And it's a lesson that I still have to work through in my own mental gymnastics sometimes when, the dishes are piling up or there's always something more, quote, productive to be doing. But I think the benefits of creativity are worth pursuing, even if that only benefit is what it's doing to our own minds and our own hearts.
Yeah. So do you feel like when you're creative, when you are, pursuing your passions and doing something outside of parenting to make you feel whole, like you're talking about, do you feel like it's helping you in your parenting?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I'm a more vibrant version of myself when I'm creating. I think creativity for me personally, it's a form of therapy, not to be confused with a replacement for actual therapy, which I don't think it is, but I often really consider, just the act of creating to be incredibly therapeutic. I think it helps me process the world. It helps me stay grounded. It helps me practice gratitude. I think like the act of creating beautiful things in a broken world is an act of hope. And that matters. And when I engage in all of those things, I am a better version of myself. And my family can see that in me. And I also think it's just really important as parents. I don't know about you, but like I want my kids to be creative. I want to raise creative kids. And I think about all the other things that we teach our children how to do, right? Like this is how you go to the bathroom. This is how you tie your shoes. This is how you do the dishes. This is how you do the laundry. It's like part of our job as parents is to raise these little children who are going to grow up to be adults. And I want my children to pursue their creative gifts for their whole lives. And if I really want that, I have to show them what that looks like. So I can't bury all of my creative dreams, into the ground and expect them to go chase theirs. I have to show them what it looks like.
That's such a good point. And I think that we overlook that with our kids because we're like, well, this isn't necessary for me to be doing. Like, remember, there was a time we were really stressed as a family and I was really stressed as a mom. And I just woke up one day and I'm going to paint a mural in my daughter's bathroom. And so I went to the store and got all the paint and I painted these huge flowers on her wall and it turned out really cute. But it took me a few days and I would just do it every night when she would go to sleep. I would just turn a light on and do it. And
I love that.
Yeah. It really helped me to process some of that, some of that stress. Like I was just in there by myself with the paintbrush. And I love that my kids were able to see it. And I noticed that they were starting to like color a little more or, do their own things. And I think it was just because I was modeling something that was important to me. But
totally. And creativity is so generative in that way. I know that, I feel that so much just in the world because I'm just a very collaborative person. And so I love writing and creating alongside, I have a whole team of women that I create with, and I love to collaborate and ping, little bits and pieces of inspiration off of different people. And I think that's even true in my own house, like one kid starts sitting down to color and then another kid comes and joins in. And then pretty soon the entire dining room table is covered in markers and stamps and origami. And it's just one thing leads to another. And then I feel inspired to go create. And it's just so generative in that way.
Hey guys, I am so excited to tell you that Christian Parenting is hosting our 5th annual Perfectly Imperfect digital parenting event called Every Parent Wants to Know. We all have questions when it comes to raising our kids to know and love Jesus because parenting is hard. It's the best job in the world, but it can also be exhausting, overwhelming, and sometimes even confusing. So we have brought together some really great friends and experts who are sharing their insight, experience, and wisdom to give you the answers to the questions we're all asking. So you can join us on April 14th for Every Parent Wants to Know, where we will hear from a host of speakers on things like character, faith in your home, grandparenting, some tough topics, and even a topic just for the parents. Each ticket is $49, and you get access to the entire event through the end of the year. So visit perfectlyimperfect.org to check out the speakers, learn more, and get your ticket today. See you there. So do you feel like you do it a lot as a family? Like when do you find time to be creative in your life? Like what does your schedule look like, I guess, for that?
Yeah. So I am an early bird gets the worm type in this season of my life. But I want to put a disclaimer on that for any listeners who maybe have like a baby that's up, 40 times in the middle of the night. Like there have been entire seasons of my life where it was not possible or feasible or reasonable for me to get up at the crack of dawn. So right now I'm in this season of parenting where all my kids sleep through the night and I am a 5 a.m. riser. So I start my day being creative in the dark next to a burning candle at my desk first thing in the morning. That's kind of when I get a lot of my core writing and deep work in. And I love to do that before my kids are even awake because no matter what unfolds after that, I know that at least I gave my freshest mind to my creative work. And I can kind of cross that off the list first thing in the morning. And then just like you were saying earlier, I just kind of create in the margins of my day. I do think that we create a lot as a family. My dining room table is a real situation right now in this phase of life. I have one of those rolling carts that we just keep next to the dining room table full of coloring books and art supplies. And, my kids are different ages. So I've got everything from my oldest he's actually a very talented artist. And he right now is kind of in an origami phase. So that's sort of the current art projects that he's working on. And then my 8-year-old really likes to make comic books and, like kind of DIY graphic novels. I don't know how old your kids are or if they're in that stage yet, but
mine are 6, 8, and 10. But I just thought, I was just talking to actually a coworker whose son has a comic book club.
Oh my gosh.
Like once a week after school, he has his friend, he's 8, and he has his friends come over and they make comic books together.
That's amazing. My kids would love to have something like that. Yeah. We buy him. They have these really cool books now where they're kind of just blank templates where they have the little boxes, kind of like a graphic novel, and then kids can draw their own pictures in. So my 8-year-old's really, really into that. And then my 3-year-old just wants me to print off, 14 different unicorn coloring pages for her a day, just off the home printer. And
we do so much of that at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
We print a coloring page and it's a lot of unicorns and flowers.
I don't know why the printing at home is like so much more special than just a coloring book, but it is for some strange reason. So,
well, to be fair, I do feel like the printer paper is better than coloring book paper.
Yeah, you're right. Now that you say that, I can see it.
Although some of the coloring books are turning to be nicer. So I don't know. But it's fun to pick it from the internet.
It's the novelty of it. Yeah. So it's a very special thing. She comes in, every 5 minutes. Mommy, can you print me a unicorn page? And that's kind of her art du jour right now. So
I think it's really cool that you guys all love to create. You all are little artists in your own way, but in different ways. Like each of you create differently. And I think that's such a form of worship. And it really shows how God created us all so uniquely. Like he is the ultimate creator and we can create as a way of worshiping him. Do you find that in your family?
Yeah, absolutely. And my kids have a lot more what I would just call artistic talent than I do. Like I'm not good at drawing or good at kind of quote making art, but I love to take photos. So photography is a way for me really to capture beauty and to capture love and to capture all of the good things that God has given us in this world. And so I do think like there are a lot of elements of creativity that cross over and span different genres, just the act of sort of like paying attention. But yeah, my kids definitely have different skill sets than I do. And I think that's really cool that we all have something unique that we can bring to the table.
Yeah.
Literally, that we can bring to the dining room table.
To your dining room table.
Yeah.
And the cart.
Yes.
So you also write in your book, and I loved this. You were talking about how you never really felt like 100% ready. Like not being 100% ready to have kids or to take the leap of faith of anything like marriage, parenting, a job again after parenting or during parenting. Yeah. I think that's really relatable and also freeing for others to hear, that you didn't feel like you were totally ready to write a book while being a mom, but you just did it anyway, because that's just kind of what we have to do. We have to take that leap of faith. As a working mom, 2 of my goals for the new year are to take better care of myself and simplify. And one of the ways I'm doing that is with HelloFresh. There's a reason HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. They make it so simple. All I have to do is pick my meals and my delivery date, and all of the pre-portioned ingredients and step-by-step instructions come right to my door. That means less hassle, less wasted food, and they have health-forward options like over 30 calorie-smart and protein-smart recipes each week. The recipe cards are easy to follow and they're full of pictures, so it makes cooking with my kids really fun too. And we all know that when they are involved in the cooking, they're more likely to eat it, so everyone wins. We have a great deal for you right now because I know that mornings can be crazy as a parent. I often find myself forgetting breakfast or grabbing something really fast. But you can go to hellofresh.com/CPPodcastFree and use the code CPPodcastFree for free breakfast for life. That's 1 breakfast item per box while the subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at hellofresh.com/CPPodcastFree with the code CPPodcastFree.
Yeah.
Like you said. So I want to just, for the parent who's listening who doesn't feel like they have time to be creative or they're not ready, like what do you want that parent to hear?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I really think it is as simple as just creating anyway. There's always going to be so much fear and so much doubt and so many distractions and so many reasons why you don't have time for this. You don't have energy for this. But again, when we just go back to that reframe in the beginning of just, we are creative beings. Like God made us this way on purpose. And when we allow ourselves to embrace the idea that this really matters, this creativity flowing through our DNA, it matters. It was put inside of us on purpose. And when we really, truly believe that, we can push through all the muck, all the reasons why we don't feel ready, we don't feel prepared, we don't feel equipped. And I mean, I will speak for myself. Like I've been creating and sharing my work publicly for a very long time. And these are all still things I have to work through on a very regular basis. Like I still have not, quote, arrived, and I think that from the outside looking in, it's really easy to look at all of the artists out in the world, right? The most successful and the people that we really look up to and admire and think that they have reached a point where they don't struggle with any of these things anymore. And it's just not true. Every day I am constantly just having to rely and trust on the Lord to carry me through all the fear, all the doubt, all the insecurity, all the excuses. I'm relying on him for the discipline and to help me just stay obedient. And all I can really say is like, it is worth it on the other side. And sometimes you just have to create anyway.
Yeah. I think I love that you brought up that comparison because it's so easy for us to do, right? Especially with social media, just to be like, oh, well, that person's life is perfectly put together and they're able to create in their dining room tables clean afterwards, Like, how do you balance that?
Yeah, it's really hard. That is definitely something that I have struggled with on and off. I would say probably my entire creative journey. And I think it's such a cliche, but for me, the greatest kind of antidote to that is to just like ruthlessly cheer and champion all of the other women around me who are also creating. And I've really been on I'm so blessed. And I want to just acknowledge that like I've been on the receiving end of so much support. And I know what that can mean to a person. And so I think when I take it upon myself to just channel a lot of energy into cheering on other women, it really just can shift your heart posture. Like the more you just really intentionally engage in that kind of proactive cheering on for others, it almost by default, the comparison kind of just starts to fall away. That's not to say it never comes back, but that for me has been the greatest tool in my toolbox, so to speak.
I think that's really awesome. And it's so helpful in so many different areas in life, not just in like creativity, but basically anything that you're seeing on social media, just cheering people on anyway. Yeah. That's a good advice. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Yeah. So for people who are listening and kind of want to get like, okay, I'm going to make room for my creativity. At the end of each of your chapters, you have little like challenges or ideas for people to do. Can you just tell us about those a little bit so that people have an idea of what they can expect?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I really intentionally wanted to just offer some easy prompts at the end of every chapter to just get women engaged. I think sometimes, especially if you're maybe not used to calling your creativity, which is a real thing. I believe like every woman, every mother is creative, but there are a lot of women out there who don't actually use that terminology or have a hard time wrapping their heads around what it means to be creative. And so I just wanted to offer some really easy, accessible, just creative ideas for how to kind of exercise this part of yourself, and really easy journaling prompts that hopefully like aren't too intimidating. And yeah, it's just my hope that this book will not just be something people read passively, but that it's something people actually engage in and use it to kind of propel them forward into some kind of creative journey for themselves.
I think it's going to do that for people. I really do. And I loved it. And I'm really excited for people to be inspired by it and to kind of jumpstart their creativity. And I just love the permission that you give, especially moms, to be doing these things, because I think it's really important. So I'm excited for people to get their hands on it and to read it. Yeah.
Thank you.
So can you tell us before we go, like how people can find your book and then how we can connect with you online too?
Sure. People can find the book, I think, at pretty much any bookstore. I don't have a list in front of me, but it is available. I mean, it's on Amazon, it's at Target.com, it's at most of the Christian online bookstores. So it's out there and pretty easy to find, I think, if you just do a quick search. And then you can connect with me online via my website, which is ashleegadd.com, or on Instagram at Ashlee Gadd.
Great. And I'll put links in the show notes that people can find it easily.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I really hope everyone picks up a copy. I think they're going to love it. And I'm just really grateful for your time today. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you so much, Steph. I appreciate it.
I hope you loved spending time with Ashlee today. I really loved when she spoke on comparison. We can battle comparison by cheering others on. And that applies to so many areas in life, not just when it comes to creating. This was such a fun conversation. So go create something today. It is worth the time. Thank you for listening. May God bless you this week. And may you remember that He knows your heart and He delights in who you are, His precious, remarkably made creation.